Chad Moyer with you here on the Rural Radio Network. It is time for our weekly conversation with Nebraska's ag climatologist, Al Dutcher. Al, thanks for joining us here today. We've had a very pleasant week weather-wise, but it looks like the heat is going to return next week. Give us kind of a summary. What are we looking ahead for, Al?
Unfortunately, Chad, I think you're pretty correct on regards to us getting warmer next week. It's been fairly well advertised. The bigger question is how warm will our temperatures get? And from that standpoint, there has been some backing off, at least from the GFS model standpoint, about the heat in western Nebraska, but they've kind of shifted that heat more in toward eastern Nebraska and portions of central western Iowa. So the overall scheme of things is that we're this troughing pattern that's been established over the Upper Plains and Great Lakes region that's brought this cooler weather in, and occasional rounds of thunderstorm activity is expected to weaken, and as it weakens, we'll see the ridge from the west build into our area. So we'll start to see temperatures moving up as this weekend progresses in the eastern part of the state. Probably we'll have another day of 80s as we go into tomorrow, and then we'll probably push the 90-degree mark or low 90s in eastern Nebraska as we go into Sunday. And then the much warmer temperatures from that ridge come firmly established across the entire state as we go into Monday, probably looking at mid-90s as pretty much the status quo. As we go into Tuesday, that ridge slides even further into the central Corn Belt, so we'll see temperatures moving up into the upper 90s as we go into eastern Nebraska, western Iowa. And on Wednesday, potential is there, at least for some scattered 100-degree readings across the eastern part of the state. In the western part of the state, basically the GFS model is staying in that 95 to 99 range, which a few days ago was in that 99 to 105 range. So I do look at that as a little bit of relief. Unfortunately, no precipitation to speak of. The only real shots of moisture would be across the eastern Nebraska, and that is as this ridge pushes toward the east, we'll see some energy wrapping around that top of that ridge. May give a shot across eastern Nebraska tomorrow night and Sunday night, but even then the odds are fairly low. More concentrated moisture will remain toward the northeast. And more importantly, as we go into late next week, the GFS model does show another trough moving across the northern plains. The bigger question is, does that cold air make it down into Nebraska, or does it remain across the Dakotas? And by cold air, I mean basically about a 5 to 10 degree drop in temperatures. If indeed that does come down into our region, then we'll back off on our highs late next week. If that basically slides across the northern plains and toward the Great Lakes, then our temperatures are probably going to maybe cool down into lower 90s, but another ridge starts to reestablish itself as we go into late next week and the following week, and we return right back to the heat. So the bigger issue as we get into the middle of next week is with all the rain that's fallen to our south, we're going to have a lot of humidity in the air with the southerly winds, and that's going to create some very uncomfortable heat indices, probably in the 105 to 115 range, and I think that they're most likely to hit that on Tuesday and Wednesday. And unfortunately, we're probably not going to be dealing with very strong winds, so air movement is going to be a little bit more problematic. It's going to create some very uncomfortable conditions, and also our nighttime lows are probably going to be stuck into the 70 to 75 degree range, particularly across the eastern half of the state. This could get ugly real fast. At the same token, as we've seen in this past week, a couple thunderstorms in the right spots. Also, we have 1 to 2 inches of moisture. Gets us down the road a couple more days. So that's basically the pattern we're in, and I don't see it going to change in the next couple weeks.
All right. As always, great information. Thank you so much, Nebraska's ag climatologist Al Dutcher, in our update here on the Rural Radio Network. Chad